Well, first I can say it's very nice to put some faces and some bodies to names. So looking over here at Ganesh, thank you for joining us. Fleming, thank you for joining us. Javier, thank you for joining us. Lilia, Colin, Okta, Rizal, Lara, Melanie, nice to see you. Benjamin's on. If you can, if you have the capacity, it would be great to have your cameras on. Sutta, nice to see you. Gian. Okay. And Alia has just joined us. Emilia, welcome. And Rian is there. So we had about 40 people who registered. So let's keep an open heart and an open mind to people coming in a little bit later. But for those of us that are here on time, I want to acknowledge the fact that you have arrived on time in the busyness of your days and the busyness of what it is that you do, where you are, and to acknowledge that this is creating a new space of trust, a new space of relationships, and really, it's a new movement. And the new movement is to look at education from a different lens. So before we start, perhaps I can just have an indication, and welcome to Lara. Perhaps I can just have an indication of whereabouts in the world are we coming from. Ganesh, could you unmute yourself and let us know where you're coming from?
Hi, Peter. I'm from India. I work in Kolkata.
Welcome. Thank you for sharing. And off to you, Gian. Whereabouts are you coming from?
Halo Pak Pete, selamat sore from Bali.
From Bali. Thank you, Gian. And next to Gian on my screen is Sutta. Whereabouts are you coming from, Sutta?
Hello, Pak Pete. I'm coming from Bali.
Beautiful. And Fleming, nice to put a face to your name there. Whereabouts are you coming from, Fleming? I'll just unmute you. Yeah, thank you.
I'm from Sweden, in the middle of Sweden.
Wonderful. And what time is it there, Fleming?
It's 13 p.m.
Okay, nice.
1 o'clock p.m.
Okay, great. Thank you, Fleming. And Melanie.
Hi. Okay. Trying to figure out the. Hi, I'm Melanie. I'm coming from the United States. I'm in Maryland, and it's 7 a.m.
Nice. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
And Javier, where are you coming from?
Hello, everybody. I'm from Argentina, but at this moment I'm in Barcelona, Spain.
Nice, beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Lilia, where are you tuning in from?
Hello, everyone. I come from Bali, Indonesia.
All right. Okay, great. Strong Bali presence here. Thank you, Lilia. Cynthia. Okay, just letting some more people in. Cynthia, to unmute yourself. Yeah, you're still muted there, Cynthia. So let's move to Amelia. Oh.
I'm from Bali too. Nice to meet you. Selamat malam from Bali.
Malam. It looks like a strong Bali presence. We've got Amelia. Where are you tuning in from, Amelia?
I'm Emilia. I'm from Sumba Island, Indonesia.
From Sumba Island in Indonesia. Beautiful. Thank you, Amelia. Dr. Nicolene, where are you tuning in from today?
I am tuning in, which I hope you can hear me well, from the bottom of a very big building in Dubai. For those of you who don't know me, I am Dr. Nicolene. I'm from South Africa. I live in Bali and I'm currently in Dubai. Hi to everybody from the team. Hi, Javier. Hi, Melanie, all the faces and like awesome people that I know. And also hi to the people that I don't know. I am so super excited. Hi, Benjamin.
Awesome. Thanks, Dr. Nicolene. And off to you, Lara. Where are you tuning in from today, Lara?
Hi everyone, also South African, but I'm currently in Doha, relocating back to South Africa in 3 weeks' time.
Hey, great. Awesome. Thank you. And this is Rian, I think. Rian, whereabouts are you?
Africa, but currently in Bali.
Okay. Got a little South African presence happening, which is beautiful. And Rizal.
Hello, good night. I'm from Jember, East Java, Indonesia.
East Java, beautiful. Welcome. And down to Diana. How are you, Diana? Where are you tuning in from?
Hi, I'm from Hong Kong.
From Hong Kong, beautiful. Thank
Yep.
you. And just moving down to the individuals without cameras on, Pandan. Dewi, are you with us? Almost. Alia, are you with us?
Yeah, hi, Phillips. I'm Alia and I'm from India, to be specifically Bangalore, the Silicon Valley of India. So yeah, I'm here. Nice meeting you all.
Nice meeting, nice having you on, Alia. Thank you for sharing it. Colin, are you able to share whereabouts you're coming from?
Yeah, good morning. It's 4 a.m. on the West Coast of America. I'm calling in from Squamish, British Columbia, Canada. And just a shout out to all the dads out there. Happy Father's Day.
Oh, nice. Clicks for that. Thanks, Colin. Amazing tuning in for 4 a.m. from British Columbia there. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it. Appreciate your presence. Down the bottom, we have Ita. Ita, where are you coming from today? We'll just unmute you there.
Yeah, yes, okay. Hi everyone, I'm Ita from Jakarta. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you also, Ita. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and Benjamin at the top there, where are you coming from today, Benjamin?
So I am originally from France. I am based in Bali, and I'm very excited to meet you all virtually and to maybe co-create some interesting stuff together. Thank you for being present.
Thanks, Benjamin. Okay, well, I think we can begin. First, I'd like to say a huge thank you to everyone for being here. And it was an impulse that we carried together, myself, Benjamin, and Dr. Nicolene. And off the back of our collective work, we have been very curious at starting a movement of conscious educators. So what does that mean? And over the next hour to hour and a half, we'll explore this. Okay, so after my brief introduction, I'd like to share a little bit about myself and the work that I do alongside Dr. Nicolene and also alongside Benjamin. I'll then hand it over to Benjamin, and he will go through a beautiful body of work that he has developed over time. And then we'll have some time towards the end. I know it's an hour and a half session, but I thought it'll be wonderful to have some discussion. There'll be a lot to think over, a lot of perhaps disruptive, provocative thoughts about education and about what the definition of educator currently means, but what it can mean, or perhaps even what it has meant in the past. Okay, so my name's Peter Thomas Sudiasa Phillips, and my mother is Balinese, my father is Australian, And I've been in education for over 10 years, worked in the Waldorf school system in Australia, worked over here in Bali, formed our own learning center called Open Flow Learning Center in Bali. And it's a very progressive educational model, mixed ages, no classes, voice and choice. And it's a direct response to a non-traditional way of education. So I sent an email out earlier today with a welcome video. And as I said in that video, if you had a chance to see that myself and Dr. Nicolene are over in Dubai at the moment at an education conference. And it was a very interesting period of time leading up to this event. And what I'd like to say about that is that it seems, to me anyway, it seems that when you put your hand up and you say you want to do something differently, that all of a sudden a lot of things happen in and around you. And for me, in having this impulse in coming together with Benjamin and Dr. Nicolene and saying, well, what does conscious education mean? What does it mean to be a conscious educator? Now, whether you're in a traditional system or whether you're in a non-traditional system, whether you're an educator or whether you are not an educator is irrelevant. Because really, as a life, as a human being, in the capacities that we have, we naturally educate others by our sheer presence. And the fact that we are on this call right now in multiple time zones from around the world, some of us meeting for the very first time, already tells us that there's new learning which is happening. There's new possibilities. Okay? So this response to conscious education, it really is the foundational conversation that we're having today in terms of what co-creation can be. Because conscious education deserves to live in every form of schooling system, whether it be traditional systems, whether it be progressive systems, whether it be alternative education systems, whether it be in the workplace, whether it be in the office, whether it be out on the farm. All of these areas of society deserve to have individuals that approach education through a different lens, through a different set of eyes, through a different set of ears, through a different heart. Because we all remember the time when we were in school, and we remember what it was like when we can pick that one educator, that one teacher who still to this day we can recall just like that. Whether it was a positive experience or a negative experience. So how do we provide a space for people like us to come together who live, love, breathe education, to unite our ideas, to unite our thoughts, to unite our challenges, and to come together and to forge a pathway of solutions? And this really is an invitation that you have responded to. An invitation that you have responded to out of some sort of willingness within you that united with a message that you saw on Instagram or you saw on LinkedIn. Somehow the mysterious ways of the modern world unite us like this. So I invite you into this space of listening. I invite you into this space of whole body listening. And every single step of this way, of this next hour and a half, and the subsequent events and things that we have to share with you, I invite you into this living process, this creative process. Because what we have entered into is not a sterile, stagnant process. This has been consciously designed between myself, Dr. Nicolene, and Benjamin to be an all-inclusive space, to be a space where, as I said to you in the email, the 6 points of when you were in the waiting room, if you could shed those layers of traditional education, shed those layers of perhaps what you experienced when you were growing up in school, shed those layers of traditional management and hierarchical structures, shed that understanding of what you know about various curriculums and methodologies and pedagogies that live, and just hold this container, if you like, this container of space and time that we are consciously coming together to explore possibility. And the possibility that's in this Zoom meeting right now really, really excites me. Because one, we have absolute diversity. Two, we have an incredible amount of wisdom and intelligence that lives on this call. But how can we unite these common threads from a place-based setting and co-create something new that we can share amongst one another? Because there are beautiful things happening all the way over there in Bangalore. There are beautiful insights all the way over there in Spain and Argentina. There are beautiful insights and live research, live work, leading edge work of education that's happening on the island of Bali. But first, we need to be attuned to what this idea, what this concept, what this intentional concept is of what a conscious educator is. So you may not find definitions of what a conscious educator is because it is independent of you as a being. It is dependent on where you are up to on your journey as a human being, first and foremost, as an educator, as a father, as a mother, as a partner, as a leader, as a teacher, all of these identities that we put on ourselves. And as I humbly requested from you, if we can shed those identities for just a short period of time, if we can just let them rest for a little while, and we can pick them up on the way out of the Zoom call, or maybe we can leave them behind even. But we all know that they're real. This is part of our world. This is part of the world which we try and shelter somewhat our children so that they can emerge as their true selves without these identity crises, without these pressures that we so often cast downwards onto children. We cast all these pressures to educators. We cast these pressures to schools. So in this period of time, before I hand it over to Benjamin, I really ask you to consciously deconstruct those identities, to dissolve those identities, because we all carry so much from the past. And we are all so incredibly imaginative to be able to look to the future and absolutely have an element of control of creating how that can be, whether it be in the physical form or whether it be in an environmental form, in terms of a learning environment, or it could be just in your presence, when you meet another human being, when you meet your partner, when you meet another educator, when you experience the chaos of what a day can bring, but how you can bring calmness and how you can bring clarity to people. So if we can move those identities aside for a while, if we can enter into this space of co-creation that I personally am so humbly appreciative and full of gratitude to be on this call, to even speak with you now. I consider that one of life's greatest gifts, to spend time and space with other people, understanding the responsibilities, understanding the workload, understanding Monday is coming, understanding all of these things are coming up into the future, but also being 100% right here, right now with everybody on this call. I am fully aware, I am fully conscious that I'm part of this group. And what I do not know yet are the amazing things that you do, the incredible journeys that you have been on, the incredible journey that you are on, the fears or anxieties that you may have about the future, the unrealized traumas of the past that you need to break free so that you can really live freely into yourself as a being. Because the real work with conscious education begins with a conscious educator, which begins with a conscious human being. And that's you. And that's me. And I don't believe it's right to start at this macro level and say, well, everything outside of me is the problem. And I can ask a question, is it easier to change the world, or is it easier to change yourself? And with that, I'd like to hand over to Benjamin, and I'll let Benjamin, thank you for entering into the chat there yourself. I'd like to ask Benjamin to introduce himself. At every single stage of this process, we have modeled agility, flexibility, and absolute trust. And before I hand it over to Benjamin, I really experience in the interactions with Benjamin an absolute gem of a human being. And even calling up today and having a final little session with Benjamin, and it was nothing but generative energy, nothing but generative energy. So with that, Benjamin, I'd like to hand over to you. And thank you everyone for your attention and openness in this opening part of it. So thank you so much. Benjamin.
Thank you, Peter. So let's start about, we don't know each other, so let me introduce myself. I'm not coming from the world of education. I am coming from the world of corporations. And this is what my education had prepared me to. My education had prepared me to compete, to make money, to follow the norm. And what I realized across my journey in the corporate world is that, first of all, I didn't know who I was. I was just following what I had been told is success. And I thought it was going to bring me happiness. So I climbed the corporate ladder. I had a 10 years career in the corporate world, from manager to senior manager and expert consultant. And each time I thought, oh, I'm going to climb, I'm going to get promoted, and there I'm going to find happiness. And I didn't. And more concerning for me was the fact that along the journey, it became increasingly clear that I was part of a system that has not been designed to be sustainable. Because in my corporate career, we were basically only focusing on making more profit and making more growth. And it was basically, there was no meaning to it. It was just more profit for more growth for more profit. And I could connect the dots with this way of functioning and the social and environmental challenges that are increasingly present in our society. And I thought, I try to avoid these thoughts, by the way. I try to run away from that reality because I just wanted to be successful and happy, but I couldn't. And I thought, how can I be successful if I'm participating in a system that is not sustainable and that's bringing us on the verge of undesirable future? And so I decided to quit. And when I quit, I realized that I was completely unprepared. I wanted to be part of the solution, but I had no clue on how to be myself, how to make sense of the reality around me, how to be part of the solution. And so I went on a journey of unlearning what I had learned in school to find myself and to find purpose. And out of that journey, I started to have many realizations about the reason why we are kind of losing our way as a species. And I don't know if you share that feeling, but I realized that we are not yet very conscious as a species. We are mainly driven by automated patterns that we've inherited from the past and that we just transfer as something normal without being aware of it. And I had inherited that, just as I think all of us have inherited that. And the problem is that those automated patterns, they are not fit for purpose in our time. You might have noticed that we are living in times of great acceleration and that the reality around us is changing increasingly fast. The latest disruptor of our norms and of our reality is AI. But there will be more and more. And the reason why this is creating dangerous situation for us is because we are not conscious enough. In a way, the more we increase our technological power, the more we need consciousness for this technological power not to be misused to the point it is becoming destructive. Imagine a child. Would you give a child a loaded gun or a grenade? I don't think you will do that because you understand that these are extremely dangerous tools, extremely powerful technologies. And you wouldn't give it to a child who doesn't have the level of consciousness to make a safe use of it. We as humans have multiplied our destructive power in the last decades, but we have not multiplied our consciousness. And we are not even being mindful about expanding our consciousness. And this is what is creating the problem. And I believe all of you are involved in the education of children. All of you have a very important mission. It's to prepare the youth for the challenges of their times. But if we are not paying attention to the aspect of consciousness starting within ourselves, then we are kind of failing that mission, because we are not equipping the youth with what they need in order to understand what is happening in the world and understand how they can adapt to it, how they can provide solutions. There are many ways in the old ways of educating that are not fit for the challenges of our times, because our educational system has been built to respond to challenges that are not ours in our time. It has been built to make people competitive, productive. It has built for an industrial economic system. And so what we are proposing you here is to help you gather the knowledge that will allow you, gather the resources, the tools that will allow you to equip your students, that will help them to find themselves, that will help them to make sense of a world that in many ways appears to fall apart, that will help them to have a positive vision for the future. And I cannot emphasize how important is that. There has been statistics that came out lately about how students are feeling about what is happening on the surface of the globe. There is an epidemic of eco-anxiety. Eco-anxiety is when people are afraid about the consequences of the ecological crisis. And I don't know if you follow the news, but they are not good. Climate change is worsening, there is biodiversity loss, there is ecosystem destruction, there is pollution all over the place. We are starting to realize that we've overshot the limits of our planet. And students, youth people, are very likely to come across this information and to feel that their future is being jeopardized. And as educators, we have two choices. Either we pretend it's not there, but in that case, you feel that if we pretend it's not there, you will be able to prepare the youth for the challenges of their times. Or you have to give them resources and tools to understand what is happening so that they can make sense of it and find their way. Because the last thing we want is to have students who feel lost and unequipped, because when they turn out to be 20, 25, they realize that they are absolutely unprepared for the world in which they are stepping into, because basically they have a recipe of the past that is not up to the challenge of today. I have a good news for you, because this might be very depressing when we talk about the ecological situation. We might think, oh my God, you know, I heard a lot of people who get very stressed about it, depressed, even don't want to talk about it. It's not as complicated as we think if we start to bring consciousness to the consciousness to where there was none before. The problems we are facing, again, they are a problem that stem out of a lack of consciousness. And so once we start to bring consciousness to where there was none before, we start to realize what is happening. It's like, yeah, of course, we don't function in ways that are sustainable because we never learn to do so. But we can if we start facing our problem and understand where they stem from. And so the idea here is to equip you so that you can equip the youth, so that you can allow them to make conscious choices. You can prepare them for the great challenges of the 21st century. The alternative to that is to simply continue to follow the old norm, knowing that this is exactly what is creating the issue. I personally, how did I come to find out? And I've been studying the root causes of unsustainability, by the way. And guess what? They are not outside of ourselves. Of course, the consequences manifest outside of ourselves, but the root causes are inside of ourselves. They are stemming from the way we think. They are stemming from the way we relate to ourselves, one another, and the natural environment. But if we look at the way we understand sustainability right now, it's not even noticed. People still look at the problems as if they were out there. So we haven't acknowledged that our problems are coming from a disconnection from ourselves, a disconnection from one another, a disconnection from the natural environment. And that a big role of education is to reconnect, to bring connection where it has been lost, and to understand why it has been lost and how we can bring it back. I use, for example, a transdisciplinary approach. So I don't know if you're familiar with the word transdisciplinary, but for me, if you want to be a conscious educator, it's fundamental to understand this notion. Transdisciplinary means we are breaking the silo of knowledge. You know, in the traditional school, we study history there, then we study mathematics, then we study environmental science, then we study economy. And we are looking at all these disciplines as if they were separated from each other. Transdisciplinary means combining the knowledge, combining the disciplines to extract a deeper and larger understanding of what we are trying to understand. As a conscious educator, all of this is something that you will have to transmit, or that you are, maybe not, you don't have to, but that you are invited to learn and to transmit to your students. And so with Pete here and Dr. Nicolen, we would like to help you with profound knowledge, with great tools that will allow you to take your education practices to the next level. That will allow you to take your students to the next level, to build the education of tomorrow. An education that is evolutive, an education in which the process of educating the youth is a process of educating yourself and becoming a better transmitter. Who has already teach something, for example, who is familiar with the transdisciplinary approach and who has already taught something using a transdisciplinary approach in the group, just for me to be curious. You did? So do you do it to Melanie? Which how old are the kids that you are teaching to? You are muted. You are muted. So if you can.
Well, I teach preschool age. I teach 4s and 5s, and this year I'll be teaching 3-year-olds. And so, I mean, I think everything's transdisciplinary and like a play-based emerging curriculum. So, that, you know, at that level, you can be, because they don't segregate all the subjects, and so much of the learning happens through play in such an integrated way. So, yeah.
Has anybody else, and maybe at an elder age, taught in a transdisciplinary way? And so, for example, imagine a transdisciplinary way imagine that you're teaching psychology, but for example, looking at history, looking at economics, looking at sociology, and understanding how all these aspects intertwine with one another. For example, understanding the psychology within a culture because you have studied the history of that culture and what they have been through. Has anybody done any such approach yet? Yes, Suta? Do you wanna share your experience?
Yes, in my work now, where I work with niche age, implemented transdisciplinary. For example, I'm teaching science, but by creating product as a project, it will be combining between the science itself and also the economy, because how you can make a product to create money, but still you
Okay, Suta, we lost you, but I understand that you've combined science and economy to better understand how to optimize, for example, marketing strategies or things like this. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So the idea here is to use a transdisciplinary approach to make sense of what is happening to us as a species and to understand how we can overcome the challenges of our times. Because ultimately, I think this is what we are here for, is to equip ourselves and one another to be able to find solutions that allow us to overcome the challenges of our times. Yes, Fleming?
Am I muted?
No, you're not. We're hearing
Okay.
you.
I'm better with children than this. Well, I don't know if it's the same, but I work with the children from the age of 5 and up to the age of 12. And we collect litter in the nature, and then we combine it with mathematics, how many bottles we have and how many bottles the other one have, and they learn to combine the numbers. And then we go home to the preschool with the letter, and we make art and what you call it, jewels, like things to wear. So we can use the litter for things like bracelets and earrings and so forth. That's I think that's the same thing, but in a smaller stage.
No, that indeed, but it's exactly that, and I think it makes the knowledge practical. I mean, it's not just some theory out there, that the students don't know how to apply in life, because they already have a connection between, for example, the mathematics, but also the application in real life. And on top of that, it's resolving real world problems. In that case, understanding, finding response to plastic pollution. And so basically, what I will, to be clear on what I teach, because I think it's also important for you to understand where I'm coming from and what I teach. I help people to understand the sustainability challenges that we are facing as a species. And this is using, the first thing is to use systemic thinking, because one issue that we have right now is that we are stuck in our silo. We don't see how all the factors of unsustainability are interrelated with one another. So for example, when we try to address climate change without addressing social issues or overconsumption of resources, we are inefficient because we don't understand that this issue is all interrelated. The next thing I teach is related to this, is to help people understand that the challenges that we are facing, they stem out of behavior patterns, which themselves stem out of the way we think. And if you know, most of our behavior patterns are coming from unconscious mechanism. So then I help people to dive in the unconscious. And I don't know if you're familiar with this term, within the collective unconscious, which is what we developed as human beings, the habits that we developed in order to survive. And from there, we learn why what has allowed us to develop and to survive in the past is not fit for purpose in our time of exponential technological progress. To give you an example, imagine that we had to hunt and to accumulate resources in order to survive. And this has worked very well. This idea that the more we have, the better, has worked for thousands of years. It has driven our progress. But today, we are coming at a point where we are taking too much from the planet. And this drive, this impulse to take always more, is becoming self-destructive. And so we need to first understand that, and then understand how we can transcend this drive to have more. And that means understanding where it's coming from deep within ourselves. And this is where we'll come to meet beliefs, fears, and traumas that are often intergenerational and that are collective. And once we have start to understand what we need to transcend, we start to see how what we are facing is an amazing opportunity for the human species. It's an opportunity to evolve, to become more conscious of ourselves, to reconnect with one another and with nature. And so this is not something that we have to be afraid of. It's something we need to understand and embrace. And so from there, we equip people with a vision to actually turn the great challenge of our times into an opportunity. And then we give complementary knowledge that have been forgotten or that have been ignored for too long, that are so important. For example, the principle of interconnectedness, how we are all interrelated with one another. Nothing in our universe is separate. And therefore, everything we do or don't do impacts the whole. So we are not powerless. We are powerful to make a difference. And so basically, with all of this, we give you a lot of resources, a lot of knowledge to really be able to make a difference, to build pathways toward future that are desirable. And so my wish is for you to really join this journey of reconnection, this journey of transcendence, to become part of the solution and forge pathway toward better future for all. Not just learning about how we can make more money, and ultimately, which ends up being, how do we extract more resources? How do we create more problems that we will have to deal with sooner or later? And so really is, for me, what I want to finish with is this invitation to join us and learn together how we can make a difference for the better. And be part of an emerging new world that is much better than the one that is slowly but surely falling apart right now. And for me, this is what I consider conscious education. It's an education that is aware of what is happening inside of ourselves, but aware also of what is happening outside of ourselves. And therefore is able to make conscious choices and able to constantly learn, expand, and transfer, share this learning and this expansion. Thank you so much, everyone. And I think, Pete, I don't know where you want to take this. I'm very open to have questions, but
Yeah.
I really hope you will be keen to. I see Adi is raising his hand. It's clapping. Thank you, Adi. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll open up to everyone here. If there's anything that's really singing to anyone, please feel free. Unmute yourself. Thank you, Benjamin.
Thank you, Pete, and thank you, everyone.
No, I will definitely want to unmute myself. Wow, I always get super excited when I listen to Benjamin and to his work. Can you guys hear me well? Is that like good? Can you like clap your fingers if you can hear me well? Thumbs up means I did something great, but you can like say it resonates with you, my voice at the moment. So Benjamin, what really came up for me while you were talking is this whole thing about the SDGs. And when we were sending out a message this morning, I spoke about a word that's this bottleneck conversation. And I'm so sick and tired of these bottleneck conversations. It's like when you sit in traffic and you just have freedom, and then all of a sudden there's a bottleneck and it slows you down and it frustrates you and you can't actually move any further and you just have to wait until you're out of it. And conversations around the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals in education, really feels like a bottleneck traffic jam. Because somehow the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, for those of you that don't know, zero hunger, poverty, quality education, clean water and sanitation, partnerships, peace, there's 17 global goals that the world wants to achieve by 2030. But it's already been postponed from the year 2000 and so forth. And now there's also, they're pushing for 2050. But back to the SDGs, they are, for me, the natural consequence of an unconscious society. I'm going to say that again. The SDGs, these massive issues that we are trying to tackle, are actually just the natural consequence of us being so unconscious until now. And the funny thing is that we keep on going back to the product, and we keep on trying to tell and share and educate the kids and ourselves about how to come up with solutions and how to fix the problems. But it's very far and few between that you actually have conversations that challenges the systemic root of why is there zero hunger? Why on earth in 2030 are there still people that don't have clean water and sanitation? It is insane. It's beyond me. We have the most powerful AI tools, yet there are people who don't have food. Doesn't really make sense. You know, here in Dubai, they do something that's called cloud seeding, where they send small little missiles into a conducive cloud, and it has sulfur and chloride in it. I think that's correct. But then the cloud becomes rain. It basically dehydrates the cloud. Maybe, Laura, where you guys are, something similar happens, and it rains. So when we talk about areas in the world where there's no water, there's no clean water, there's no rainfall, I really become curious. I become curious as to why are we not conscious enough to tackle these root problems? And, you know, Benjamin, every time that I listen to you, there's just like so much that comes up for me. And I can even feel my heart racing, because it is all about how do we bring the systemic systems view that is human-centered to education. And I know that today we're using like big words and it's a long session, and I'm sure many of you are wondering if we're going to put up like a slide, or if you're going to get a handout, or is there a framework? So all of those things are a yes and it's also a yes and no. So there won't be any slides today, there will be a handout, and there is a developing framework. And as you show up, we will share some more dates. You can walk with us on this journey, going through this framework and unpacking all of these parts. But today was all about conceiving this idea. Now, for those of you that are parents, that are moms and dads, there's something about being pregnant and being the partner of the person that's pregnant and actually reaching that point of giving birth. And this is what this gathering today was. There was an idea, there was an impulse, there was an awareness between the three of us that came and said, you know, it just doesn't make sense. Why do we keep on having the bottleneck conversations? How do we unblock that? Well, we unblock that by sharing from our own experiences, our passions, and sharing a perspective that you might not have. Maybe you have a part of it, maybe you have all of it, maybe you have none of it. But unless we start dialogue, and unless we start sharing, and unless we open up these spaces as invitations, Benjamin, like you've said, as invitations, Peter, as you've said, these conversations will not exist in education. They don't. People don't have these conversations about education, because unfortunately our identities as educators is curriculum. Our identities are admin. Our identities are parent conversations. Our identities are summer holiday. Our identities are report cards. None of the conversations in education talks about a new language and a new identity that we can take on, that actually backtracks to the systemic issues. Because what we are also facing in the classroom is systemic. And I think that becomes really interesting for me. So that's kind of like my little part responding to you, Benjamin. I don't know, Gian, maybe from your perspective, I would love to hear what's like being very alive from the conversation for you at the moment.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Ibu Nicolene, for giving me the opportunity to share. Hopefully the back sound, well, mine is louder than the back sound. Also, thanks, Benjamin, for sharing about what is it to be a conscious person, especially in this case is the conscious educators. What's really alive for me in this discussion is a constant reminder, because for me, myself, I'm so grateful to be in the circle where the environment, the support was there, and the reminder is like a constant reminder every day about being conscious. Because what if I am not being supported with such environment like that, it's so easy to become unconscious. And with that also, this is very important for myself to not just me, but also what is around me, who is around me, that I could by myself also reach out to be part of this tribe, to be conscious, to be always aware of what is it happening. Because to be conscious, what even that's mean by that? Is it just limited to the aspect of sustainability, or the whole aspect of human being? For example, when you need a time to rest, and then you being conscious of that, and you give the space for yourself to also pause from the hectic world. And for me, this is very complex yet also simple, starting from myself. Thank you.
Really beautiful. And I really like what you shared. And I think that's exactly the point. Consciousness is not just about sustainability, it's about everything. And when I say everything, is how we relate to ourselves, how we relate to one another, and how we relate to the outside world, and how we become a factor of harmony. And I think you just mentioned it. And also understanding when you need to rest and giving you that space will also allow you, when you can feel that for yourself, you will be able to feel it for others. And so you will be able to also help others to respond to their real needs. And so this is why what we are talking about is so systemic, and so both at the core of the problem and at the core of the solution. And why, as educators, it is so important to get this into integrate this higher level of consciousness, so that you can share them, so that you can embody them, because we can only share what we already have. And when I'm talking like that, I'm not pretending that I'm there. I'm also learning. I'm taking every experience to learn more, including this one. I feel like this is a co-learning space that we are creating to tap into these notions together and see what they bring up in you, how we can expand together. Lara, I see you have a raised hand.
Yeah, hi. I mean, you opened it up, I think, just to share our thoughts, and just listening to everybody, like Dr. Nicolene, you were saying, like, you know, you can feel your heart like kind of racing as you're in these conversations. Like, that's how I'm feeling. I'm an educator. I've been a teacher for the past 8 years in primary school, and very, very traditional. And oh, there's so many points that have come up in this. My brain's kind of spinning, but I think what you guys are doing is exactly what is needed. It's just, I've been in this for long enough, and I've tried so many tactics to do that, what we call cross-curricular, which is kind of like a baby step into that proper, what you call the transdisciplinary, right, approach. And the resistance, it's 95% of the teachers that I have worked with, they just, sorry, like, no, we're not really wanting, I'm teaching art at the moment. And I'm like, okay, well, if you're teaching maths, let's bring art and maths together. And it's like, it's going to be a lot of extra work. No, I'm like, but what do you mean? Of course we need to. Who was it? Sorry, one of the other people were talking about how they go and collect the litter and then use that to teach maths, right? And it's just, it's like blowing my mind to the point that I'm now leaving education, leaving teaching, and working to actually set up my own, call it coaching type of business, where we need a revolution. And I think that's what you guys are at, right? That's where we're at. It's a full revolution. It's, you know, these conversations that are happening, I think from my perspective, this is just such a beautiful group, and this conversation we're happening, to know that there's people all over the world who are thinking the same and understanding that, you know, it's not about changing the current system. It's actually, I think it was you, Benjamin, that said, it's creating that vision and presenting a vision to people, and not saying, okay, now how do we make little changes to what we're currently doing? It's going, no, we've got to take a big leap away from this, and really start sort of like revolutionizing what's happening in education. And I just think right now, this bringing together of people who kind of get it and are really committed to being conscious. This is just a really beautiful space. And I'm so glad I've joined this call. I'm actually at work at the moment. And I've just told my colleagues, like, I'm on a call, I need to be on this. And I wasn't really sure what this was about, to be honest. But it's really, really beautiful and really inspiring. And, you know, Dr. Nicolene, you were saying, like, these conversations don't happen. And they really, really don't. You know, I try and bring them up, whether it be with colleagues or even friends or friends with kids. And I think parents are maybe more open to these conversations than what I found within actual educators. And I just want to say massive thank you for creating this space, because it's lighting up a fire in me, or it's kind of adding fuel to my fire. And I'm super excited to kind of just see what happens from here and how we together as a group can kind of, I don't know, just keep evolving and sort of forging forward in this revolution, because it's just so needed. So someone else was talking about, you know, that stepping out of the current way of thinking within those traditional structures and coming into this call. You asked us to do that, and I just think that's it's so much harder than what we realize, to really reimagine things, really reimagine. And one thing that I think we need to really utilize is the kids. They can use their imaginations, are wild. Like, they have got the most beautiful ways of doing things. You know, you give them the freedom to do things, and they really do, but they revolutionize things on the day-to-day if you give them enough space and freedom to do that. Anyway, sorry, I'm kind of just jumping all over the show. Like I said, my head's kind of spinning with all of this in the best ways. But I think that's just such an important thing. I mean, that bottleneck that you were talking about, I think so often for me, I hit that bottleneck because people just stay stuck in what they currently know, and you just can't go anywhere with it. And I'm like, let's break free. Let's leave that. Can we let that go, and then like walk forward in a new clear space? And even if it feels totally nuts, like this doesn't make any sense, this can never happen, maybe it can. You guys are doing it at Open Flow. You know, people are doing it all over the world, unschooling and homeschooling communities. Yeah, so anyway, I'm just super, super excited to have been a part of this. So thank you again. And yeah, just, like I say, thanks. You've added a lot of fuel to my fire right now, which I'm pretty stoked about.
Can I jump in there? Lara, thank you so much for sharing. Gian, thank you so much for sharing. You must all really understand that when you share, that's when we create. And when we define things, when we realize the paradigms that we're in, that's when we liberate ourselves. That's when we liberate one another. Because you can be in any traditional system. I have been in many traditional systems. I move in and out of them. It is necessary. You cannot go and hide in the mountains. You can for a while, but you need to come back, because there's far too much goodness to sow into the world, because we are surrounded by the fear of change, or the fear of difference, the fear of all of the possibilities of things going wrong. But there is such a thing as failing upwards. And failing upwards is a beautiful thing. In fact, it's a necessary thing for any human being. So once we can accept these things, once we are aware of these things and we can accept them as they are, perhaps our expectations are dissolved. and we operate freely within the confines of where we may be, or within an understanding, an empathetic understanding of the individuals who we associate with, who we work with. So in understanding ourselves, the veils of perception of others are all of a sudden, they have a different light. You start to see something as it is. You start to listen to something, having an understanding of the very constitution of that person or that place or that group. And you learn from your own awakening, if you like, of how to not react to those things, of how to find the words, to find the articulation, to find the moment, to find that little key of response, of responding in a different way, of responding in a conscious way. And that is when you become not just a conscious educator, that's when you become a conscious human being. The natural consequence of you being a conscious human being will be that you lead. It will be that you lead by example. Never, ever, as we all know, never, ever underestimate the observational capacity of human beings. Never, ever underestimate the empathetic understanding of human beings. Never, ever underestimate the sensitivity of human beings. One word, one look, one moment can shift that perception. And that's why you feel it right here in your core. Something is moving. There's a motion happening. And then you'll experience it come up right up to here. Because it's real. You are seeing reality for how it is. The veils of identity have moved away, and you're looking at life in the present moment with infinite possibility. And if I bring it back to the words that were initially shared, when we ideated this, you must understand it doesn't just drop like this. It's 40 years, if I can speak for myself, 40 years of being a human being. It's not just, I've been an educator for 10 years. It's 40 years of being a human being and having a journey and all of a sudden intertwining with certain individuals. And sometimes those threads are cut and sometimes those threads fall away. And sometimes those threads you carry on with you. And the words in which we wrote to try and bring this down, this feeling down, because it started from a feeling. It evoked a thought, and a feeling and a thought moved beyond outside of ourselves, and it united in myself, Dr. Nicolene, and Benjamin to form this triangle. And now it has exponentially multiplied to include everyone in this space. But I just want to repeat the words that we wrote down and we grounded in a sentence. As conscious educators, we are empowering a global tribe of educators to reimagine education by experiential learning and teaching that consciously redefines pedagogy. I can also say, who am I to say this? What gives me the authority to say this? What gives me the authority to put a creative out there and to invite people onto a call and say that I can speak from a place of authority? Well, my authority doesn't come from anyone else. My authority comes from my truth. And when I speak my truth, just as you did, Lara, just as you did, Benjamin, just as you did, Fleming, just as you did, Dr. Nicolene, just as you did, Gian, just as Melanie and Xavier will share now, you allow others to speak their truth. And whatever comes from that, it's far better to speak truth than let it wallow away within us. Melanie, over to you.
Hi, thank you, Pete, and thank you everyone for sharing. I just wanted to say, when you were mentioning it's not 10 years in education, it's 40 years in being human, that I just think something that's fascinating, and I think a failure of our education system currently is this concept that this segregation, when you talk about the transdisciplinary approach, even this segregation we have of thinking our learning starts and stops with schooling years, so that when you're at the end of your educational journey, or traditional educational journey, if that means going from elementary school up through college or university, then you're done. You've like reached some sort of end, and then what? Instead of an integrated approach where every year counts, it doesn't start and end. It's a constant presence and integration into our whole lives, and it can be really confusing because you get to the end of that quote unquote journey that they tell you is your education journey, and then you're so lost. So you just had me thinking about that.
Thank you. I just want to say in return, before I pass it on to Xavier there, is that this is why we have formed this group. But if you picture it as a container, as a vessel where there are boundaries to this, because when you are moving or thinking in a boundless environment, how do you find your direction? And this is also an underlying intention here to provide a container for people to just ground. And if you can't ground yourself, well, then guess what? You've got 24 other people to help ground you. Xavier, over to you. Thank you, Melanie, for sharing.
Hello to everyone. Well, I'm really delighted about all the knowledge we are sharing. And I would like to share my appreciation. I share the belief that life is changing very fast. For an example, if people with 60 years old, they have born before internet, and they have lived all this changing in their lives. The technology has provided a lot of powerful tools, but I would like to see, I'm really curious about how has grown the satisfying of the basic needs of the people, also the human beings, you know. So technology is growing very fast, but are we changing fast as the technology, like humans? Do we really need what we are told to we are teach for sorry, does this change in technology and in our lives really supplies what we need for, like a humans? So and this is really all these changes are really a challenge for educators, because we are told that the success is something that maybe is not, because for sure there is not, because I think more people in the world are suffering, and they don't have water for drink, they don't have they are not surrounded by people that are looking for a better life in the way that you know, spiritual life or relationship life. This kind of life is not the paradigm, is not the main objective of their life. The main objective, or the most common objective, is to be a success people with money, with you know, material things. So this is really challenging the work and the objective of the educators.
Thank you, Javier. Beautiful sharing. Thank you so much. Again, you know, I looked in the chat. The truth, speaking your truth sets us free, and that perspective that you just shared then, I think resonates quite broadly. And we hold this question of how do we not become consumed by this feeling. And in speaking it, we can actually exhale it. And in speaking it, we can seek solutions and we can seek a different perspective. Therefore, our approach will be different. And how we approach that at whatever levels we are. Notice that we didn't term it as conscious teachers, conscious educators. An educator is anybody who facilitates learning, anyone who facilitates interaction between human beings, between human and nature, human and spirit, human and human. Dr. Nicolene, you had your hand up?
Yeah, something that really came up for me, even when you were talking, Laura, all the way through to you, Melanie, to you, Javier, is that today I sat in a taxi and we were driving through Dubai on this massive, massive highway. And I was looking left and right, and I couldn't fathom the fact that this is a real place. And at some point in this taxi ride, I was completely stuck in my own traditional thought system. Not in an education system, not in a work system. I was stuck inside my own system. And I was just perpetuating the same cycles of thought and action and just everything with inside. And at some point in the conversation, you know, I'm traveling with Peter at the moment. I realized that I should let go of everything that does no longer serve me. You know, Laura, when I was listening to you, that came really up for me within education. When, yes, it's hard when you're working with colleagues that are serving kids, their right livelihood, their futures, right? And then we have the audacity to think that we know what that is. But to let go, even now, like, it's really sad to hear that you're leaving education as a professional, but I'm sure the journey that you're opening up is as phenomenal. But to let go of those things that does not serve you. And I turned to Peter and I said, you know what? All that matters is what matters to me right now. I cannot be anywhere. I cannot do anything else but to really do what serves me right now. And if that is well, I will be able to serve others. So that was my conscious grounding today, that I can do what I do well if I'm aware of what that is. And if I don't bring the baggage of all the other stuff that's not mine and that doesn't belong in and around the work that I do, if I can only serve with what works for me, that in itself makes me more conscious in the work that I do. So that really came up for me as you guys were talking.
Thank you, Dr. Nicolene. Ganesh, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for this call. And I think the idea of a human being was talked about many times. And I think one of the crises we have been, having a long journey of education, getting till the point of a doctorate degree, and then realizing and leaving that degree, is the idea that, you know, that our being, it is not that our being is negated every day. In this scheme of things, which we are living today, our being is negated every day. and what you will be someday in the more capitalist sense of things, where you will have a utilitarian value to the market. That is what matters. So a CA or a doctor or a lawyer, and that you will become in a long period of time through a certain course of your, what is your being today? Who are you now? Who are you? How are you relating with others? How are you responding to the crisis and the problems of the generation? So what I have felt in this journey of education, being like informal education for 27, 28 years of my life, is that your being gets negated every day. And I have always had a problem with that. And I think the idea of consciousness you're talking about, that's a very strong, I think, a very powerful idea. We can definitely take it forward. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Ganesh. Really powerful sharing. Benjamin, you want to add something?
No, I think it's all there. Actually, developing our consciousness is developing our being, but from a place of being. You know, it's all about like being in our center and knowing who we are and knowing how we are interrelated with everything that is. And that's, we are going through all these crises in a way, it's exactly, you just gave the explanation, because we are neglecting the being. We are just seeing it as resources to create more growth and more profit and all this insanity. And we forget the essential, which is ourselves. And so thank you for sharing that. Thank you very much.
Fleming, go ahead. We'll just get you to unmute, please.
I also find that when I'm among children, but also among grown-up, I find that from when I was younger and today, I have seen a path that I don't like. That's why I'm here today. And I see it's painting a picture for each individual that it's so focused on me, selfish. It's so self-centered, and with that comes a shell, and I can feel it with children, but especially with the grown-up people, that this shell is getting thicker with the age. And I try to penetrate that shell with my kids and sometimes with their parents. And I think it's very important to notice that that children in all over the world are somehow equal and the same in the bottom. In their soul, and to lift that and show them that it's not what you have, it's not what you are, but what you are inside. So that's matter. No matter, I have kids from all over the world, like black, yellow, white, yeah, all of them. And sometimes we have we have us meeting. That means that everybody gets a flashlight or a battery candle, and then we kill the lights. And if they want to have light, they can turn it on. But the thing is that they should not see each other, how they look. They should hear each other and listen to their souls. And I find that most of the kids somehow find that harmful, and they afterwards have a much more stronger bond to each other because of they have seen each other without their eyes, if you know what I mean. And I think that's very beautiful. And that's a play I usually do with the kids. And every time it works, and the parents often comes and say, "Oh, I can't understand. My kid is not afraid of the dark anymore." But I think it's very important to lift children's consciousness so they can see more than only themselves. Like many grown-up kids done is today. If you see some account on Instagram, it's only 1,000 pictures of themselves. It's me. And I try in my work, in my little spot here on the earth, to try to penetrate that and peel it off so they can see each other without their eyes in the spiritual way. So I love that.
That's really profound, Fleming. A thought that comes to mind is that only through our sensory body can we awaken. If we were to give this whole 1.5 hour session, which is coming to a close now, if we were to give this in a flat PDF document, would it be the same feeling? Would you derive the same meaning as what you're experiencing right now? So through our sensory body, through our 5 senses, of which you described so beautifully there, Fleming, in your small corner but large field of work that you're in there, is a really important age-appropriate, developmentally appropriate, human development process appropriate methodology to use to awaken these characteristics in children. The last thing I want to say before I bring up, Dr. Nicolene has some dates there in the chat. I'll put up a little calendar for you in a moment. I'll share the screen, and it will also be shared via your email straight after this session. Fleming, did you want to add something there before I close
Yeah,
up?
I was wanted to add what you said, that my little corner, we should all remember that a little stone makes big rings on the water.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's very, very true, as the timer tells me. And that's really when you bring multiple ripples, as we have today, and in each of our respective locations, if you were to throw one stone into the pond, there would be a beautiful ripple effect which would resonate out. But today what we've actually done is we've all thrown a pebble into the pond. And you all know what happens when multiple ripples meet one another. There's disruption. There's beautiful chaotic harmony. And that's what I do believe, that this container that we've created today, and that you all responded in such a beautiful manner over the last 1.5 hours, I can really express an absolute infinite amount of gratitude. And I can sum that up in saying, it's really, really, really beautiful to be alive. It's really, really beautiful to be able to meet people like this. It's really, really beautiful to be able to feel what it is in your life, what it has been in this present moment. And I can be a little bit selfish. And I can take all of this and I can make it mine, because I am not separate to you. So this is what connects us as conscious educators, as conscious human beings. So perhaps before I close up, I'm going to share the screen with a calendar. As you're waiting for me to put that up, please put something in the chat. Please leave a feeling in the form of a word or a sentence in the chat. I'd love to capture this and be able to share it back to you also. The intention is just to create space and openness. So I'm just going to bring up the calendar as you do that. I see ignited, Lara, awareness, Rian, excited, Benjamin. Dr. Nicolene, can I ask you to read as they're being typed? Okay, here's the calendar.
I went over to my phone. Okay, conscious, connected, encouraged and motivated with hope. Oh, that resonates. Deep understanding, reconnect, to so elated and grateful, empathetic, lighted, feel of the spirit. Oh my goodness, this is so awesome. Yeah. These are all really, really beautiful words that you guys are sharing. Interested, yeah, curiosity, intrigued, inspiring, Bucynthia. Okay.
Okay, thank you. What you will notice on the calendar is this day was consciously chosen also because it is the day of the new moon. And you will see that every subsequent online gathering is also one lunar month away from one another and the new moon. This is a generative energy, and I feel it very strongly, and I think it's very evident in our sharing here. Benjamin, you want to have some closing words there?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. But what I want to say to you is that change is coming, and it's coming big time. And guess what? Where we're going to meet the first fear of change is within ourselves. And so my invitation is, as change is coming anyway, is to embrace and create that change for yourself rather than having to undergo through it unconsciously. And so here is an invitation to embrace and create the change at first from yourself, but then another one is to do it together, because we have such an opportunity to create something magical that will impact the world, that could create history. Thank you.
Thank you, Benjamin. Dr. Nicolene, anything you would like to say before we close up?
Nope. See you guys in the next lunar cycle. I'm really, really excited. Thank you with so much gratitude.
Thank you, everyone, so much. It's really, really such an honor, such a pleasure. And I had a conversation recently with someone, and they're from an indigenous tribe in northern Indonesia. And these are called Suku Laut people. And they still live on the ocean. Their houses are small boats, which are just narrow enough for a family. And they have beautiful, beautiful cultural intelligence, a different form of intelligence. This individual, with full conviction, he said, when I dive under the water, I can smell where the turtles are. And as we left to come to Dubai, I had a beautiful interaction with him. And he said to me, well, you need to know this, Peter. When I'm back on Bintan Islands, I will know when you are sad. And I will send you good energy. And I said to him in return, well, I will hear that on the wind, when the wind blows. And I offer you that as well from us, if I can say on behalf of Benjamin, Dr. Nicolene and myself. I will feel when you need something. And when you feel that, it is your responsibility to call out, and I will meet you in the middle, and we will meet you in the middle. But the work is yours. So take that willingly and openly and empower yourselves because you are all such amazing, powerful, beautiful human beings. Trust in your own truth. Your truth is your authority. Thank you for joining us on our first Conscious Educator movement. You have, fortunately, just increased the pace of this, because as Benjamin said, it's coming, it's already here, and we are making things happen. It's time. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Sleep well wherever you are, and we will talk to each other once soon. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Selamat malam. Bye guys. Sampai jumpa.
Bye.
Kalibocha Kanoe. Kalibocha.
Fleming, thank you.
Thank you, Fleming. Ciao, Suta. Your wife's calling you.
Hej då, tack så mycket.
Terima kasih, Bu Cynthia ya. Okay, bye guys.
Bye.